They're both available from VCs, from OSC at St Mary's Co-op. Suregain have got them. I've got the VCs group. Johnny's, yeah. Burpees, if you're buying from Burpees in the States. Yes, yeah. So if you go down to Suregain on Frex, yeah, they've got the VC seeds, or you can buy them direct. But then you have to pay the you've got a VC's catalogue there? Yes. Right. So make sure that your soil is not too cold. Best test. Ladies will know what this is. When you had kids, you checked your bath water for the kids by putting your elbow in. Same with the soil. You can feel. Just put your elbow down on your soil, and if it's cold, don't go near it. If it's too wet, don't go near it, because you'll drown your plants, because they're not used to being completely solid in a very solidly packed soil that is wet. So don't. Just wait that couple of minutes longer, or days longer. Hole depths. There's a lot of talk about hole depths. Obviously, you've got to be able to get all the roots that have grown into a hole so that they don't get sort of splayed out sideways, or they don't get bunched up, because that's not going to help your plant at all. So dig your holes so that they are the right depth for the amount of root that you've got. Or if you're planting out jiffy pots, that should go just lip under about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch soil. So this is not actually sticking out, because otherwise this will go wicking. What is wicking is where this will actually collect all the water that falls around your plant, and it will draw that down. Yes, very nice, but you want the plant to get the water, not the jiffy pot. So this actually ought to go just slightly under the soil. Okay, if you're going to grow things like pole beans, celery, leeks, sweet peas, you're going to need to dig a trench that is about 1 foot deep and put at least 6 to 8 inches of really good rotted compost into that and mix it in with the soil, because then you will really start your plants well, and they will go extremely well for you.
Can you say, expand a little bit on the rotted soil? You can buy the bags of the sheep manure and all that.
Yeah. I would mix, if you're going to use sheep manure and that sort of thing, I would mix, say, compost, 3 compost to 1 sheep manure, cow manure, whatever. But don't use fresh. Never ever use fresh manures.
But they're not fresh in those big bags.
No, those big bags are well rotted, so that's good, yeah. But it's well worth trenching, and especially things that are going to grow up, your vining tomatoes as well. Things that are going to grow up your poles. Those sort of things need to have a really, really good deep mix. And we double dug here last year, and it was so well worthwhile, wasn't it? It was amazing. Double digging is where you take at least 1 foot of soil out, you mix in your compost and your manure and your leaf mold or whatever, you then go on to the next piece, and you do the same, and you do the same, and you do the same. It's hard, back-breaking work, but it is so well worthwhile, because you're building in a layer of compost at where the roots go to, and those roots will go, a lot of roots will go down to 8 inches to 1 foot deep. And you're also loosening up the soil, and vegetables grow in looser soil. They don't want compacted soil. And the reason, the way to find out whether your soil is compacted or not, dandelions. If you see a dandelion, you know you've got compacted soil. Almost certainly. And I've got masses of them, because I've got an old farm where, it was farmed, it was ploughed and tilled and whatever.
You take the first soil out, mix in, and then put
and then put some of the soil back in.
some of the soil.
Yeah, and then you go along. Have a look at double digging. It's all over the net. Yeah, and you go along, and you'll get at the end. But it builds your soil up, so you're actually doing a semi-raised bed at the same time. Yeah. Okay, spacing. Now we'll talk about square foot gardening in another session. And if you want to go on to that, square foot gardening on the internet will give you the spacing of a lot of vegetables. The other website, which is very good for that, is Journey to Forever. It's called Journey to Forever. And they will give you the spacing of vegetables because, for instance, if you're going to plant a zucchini, you're going to need 3 foot square round it because it's going to just go whoop, sideways and it's going to squash everything out. Journey to Forever, yeah. If you're going to plant onions, you can plant them 3 inches apart. If you're going to plant garlic, 4 inches apart. Ordinary bush beans. Now, I take issue with this one. This guy, Mel Bartholomew, is a scientist. Well, actually, he's an engineer. And he started the whole idea of square foot gardening. He took a brownfield site, a horrible site, in the middle of Chicago, and he wanted to teach kids how to grow things. So he literally took pretty well this table size and said, you can grow enough for one person in that size. And he worked out scientifically how much each plant takes in the way of space. And if you read his book, and it's into the 2nd edition now, he will give you all the spacings for the various vegetables. But he says that bush beans, you can grow 9 per square foot. Now, I've tried that, and my beans got rust. Whether it was the weather or whether it was they were too close together, I'm not sure. So my reaction to that one, and not the others, all the rest are pretty true. But beans, I would put only 6 per square foot. So that's just me though. All right, now, once you've transplanted your little darlings, try and shade them for the first couple of days. And you water them that day with your sugar water or your molasses water, whatever. And I tend to put a teaspoon of oats, rolled oats, in the bottom of the hole because it helps the root development. Yeah, oats have got an enormous amount of trace elements in them. So put in a teaspoon of rolled oats in the bottom of the hole, water your plant in well with your sugar mix, and that'll help with the transplant shock.
Timothy pellets work too?
Sorry?
Would Timothy pellets work too?
I don't know. I make an alfalfa compost tea, but I don't put straight alfalfa in the ground because it burns. So I'm not sure whether Timothy would work. Possibly.
Well,
Possibly.
Timothy pellets are very cheap.
Yeah, yeah. It probably would work, but you can buy a pound of, it's so little oats that it's, yeah. Timothy, for those of you who don't know, is a type of grass, and it comes in a pelletized form. Yeah. But it probably would work. Yeah. Well, alfalfa is much the same sort of situation. I make a tea with alfalfa, but again, don't make it inside, because it has alfalfa and molasses and a couple of trace elements in it, and the smell is quite revolting, but it really works. We'll talk about that at another session. So your result, mulching. There are 2 schools of thought on mulching. Mulching is either good or bad. There's sort of no in-between. People don't seem to have a sort of in-between somewhere. Vegetables, the only vegetables I tend to mulch are potatoes, because straw over potatoes is supposed to keep Colorado potato beetle away.
Supposed to keep what?
Colorado potato beetle away.
Oh, okay.
But it didn't work too well for me last year. I lost just about my entire potato crop. But I read somewhere the other day, I think it was Arizona's Department of Agriculture, plant your potatoes late, beetles won't get them. So that's something I think I'm going to try this year, because I've got a commercial farmer next door and he sends me all his Colorado potato beetles. And I haven't got the time to go and pick every single one off. Well, I normally plant the first week in June, but they're saying plant mid-July for a fall harvest. But the trouble is, most of my potatoes would be already, grown sprouts and all sorts of things by that time because I can't keep them cool enough. So it's something to think about though, because I have problems. But if you plant potatoes, beans and onions interspaced, the beans and the onions are supposed to repel. This is your beneficial planting and your companion planting. This is supposed to chase off the Colorado potato beetle. Well, I planted beans with them last year, and still had the beetles. So, I don't know. We'll talk about beneficials next week. But a lot of it is, I won't call it hooey, but I will call it, yes, it works to a certain degree. But it's not the be-all and end-all that some people try to make it out to be, the beneficials. So next week we're going to look at flowers, herbs and insect-friendly plants, as well as the friendly bugs. I'll run you through some of the less friendly bugs as well. Succession and interplanting is workshop number 3, which is the 29th of March. Get the most from a small area, and we're going to try and look at a little bit about disease resistance. And then the 4th one will be building your soil up, talking about manures, compost teas, mulches, because there are some mulches that you can use, some that are not so good, but we're talking really mulching towards the end of the year and growing green manures and things like that. Now, green manures are plants that you grow instead of manuring with animal manure. Watering, weeding, and then harvesting. So it's going to be a pretty long session again, I'm afraid. Each of these is such a huge topic in itself. Right, so good references, anything from Rodale. Rodale are the big name in the States for organic growing. And they've got a really good website. They've got an e-zine, which is actually, it comes out about 3 times a week. It gets a bit boring at times because it's just, there's too much coming at you. Mother Earth website is another one that's very nice. I Can Grow is a really nice website as well. Now, the Royal Horticultural Society in the UK, you have to be a little bit chary of. They've got some wonderful stuff, but they are talking about, we are zone 4B, zone 5 here for hardiness, in other words, frosts and snow and whatever. Don't forget, Britain is zone 8, which is almost double. So they're saying, plant in February, plant this in February, plant that in March. Whoa, add 2 months. And you might be right. And then, if you want a really good Bible book, it's called The New Seed Starter's Handbook, and it's by Nancy Bubell. And it's available from Amazon. It's produced by Rodale Press. Rodale actually have some staff writers who've written books, and Nancy Bubell's written this one, and she and her husband have written a really good book on root cellaring. And I'm going to be talking about that briefly when I talk at the Food Forum, which is on the 31st of March at Renaissance College. I'm doing Why Grow Organic that day, and I'm also doing Storage 101. So it's everything from jamming and preserving pickles, through to drying things, through to root cellaring. You can do root cellaring in your house. You don't have to build a root cellar. So if that...
Jesse's got a good one too.
Yeah.
Good starter, but they have one in Cherokee.
Yeah, they do. Indeed. This is not the ultimate. But this book covers not only seed starting, she then goes on to transplanting and everything else, harvesting, and then she goes into actually saving seeds at the end of the season so that you can grow the following year as well. So it's not just a book only on seed starting, but she's got some very good stuff in there.